Today, the BBC speaks to one man who describes his experience in Chechnya. Now, cybercrime is becoming increasingly easy, according to new research on the young people accused of it. The National Crime Agency interviewed 80 teenagers who'd been investigated by police for suspected hacking offences. It found more than half of them had first got involved before they were 16, and they generally believed they wouldn't be caught. A hacker who was interviewed for the research said he did not consider victims because he didn't see the real people he was affecting. Well, we can talk now to Jake Davis, who became involved with hacktivist movement Anonymous when he was a teenager. He was given a prison sentence for being a member of Lulzsec, a group that hacked several organisations, including the Sun newspaper. We're also joined by Mike Godfrey, an online security expert and so-called good hacker, who was investigated by the police when he was at school for a piece of software he'd written. Police concluded there was no crime. Thank you both for joining us. So, Jake, tell us what it was that made you start hacking as a teenager.
I grew up in a very remote location, the Shetland Islands, and so with very little to do, I saw this thing, the computer, this amazing window into another world, and I wanted to know why it did the things it did. Why, when opening a piece of software, it connected with other pieces of software, what made the mouse move, deconstructing it, reconstructing it. And that curiosity, and I think curiosity is what drives a lot of young hackers, led to becoming part of the community, the hacker subculture.
So what did you hack? What was the first thing you ever hacked?
Well, I suppose I messed like most kids do with the school's computer network, which I didn't get in trouble for. I helped them fix it, which was great. In terms of the Anonymous Hacking Collective, which I was arrested for being involved with, we, in 2011, would deface government websites, especially in countries such as Libya, Zimbabwe, Egypt during the Arab Spring, in support of protests and against dictators. We would replace homepages with messages of support from the Anonymous movement, the Anonymous idea.
So was there political reasons then for you to be doing that? Because that's different from hacking a school computer system.
Oh, of course. I was literally going back to the first.
Yeah.
So it was politically motivated. There was certainly no financial gain. And I think in the report the NCA put out, it details that as well. I think is very accurate. There's very little financial motivation in the black hat hacking world. There is that subculture, but a lot of it is just politically motivated, or more commonly, kudos from other hackers. Hackers want to impress each other, and it becomes a game of one-upmanship with hacking websites. So often they forget that the website itself has been hacked because it's just a mechanism through which to impress other hackers.
It's almost like it's just not real. It's an online game.
You become desensitized to the very nature of the website being taken out, because ironically it's the last thing you're thinking about.
Okay. Is that how you see it, Mike, that teenagers think it's effectively a game, it's a challenge?
Definitely, yeah. I think that's why a lot of young people get into hacking, because it is a challenge. And like Jake absolutely correctly said, kudos is a huge thing. A lot of the time it is for kudos, and it's more about that and showing off to other people than actually the political motivation for it.
How many, who are the sort of kids that get into this?
Kids, I mean, for me, when I first got involved in hacking, really it was purely because of an interest in computers and how they work. Mm-hmm. What you find is that some of the best hackers just really want to see how things work, understand them, and a lot of them come from a gaming culture where games can be modded or hacked. And once you get onto that track, like the NCA have said in their report, it's very much a very quick succession into cybercrime and hacking.
Okay, so I mean, what sort of proportion of kids who are really heavily into computer games and stuff and really understand the technical aspect of computers might actually be tempted to go down that path?
It's very difficult. I think that when you're involved in gaming and computer games specifically, you want to find ways to make yourself better at that, to increase your score. Obviously everybody aims to be the top of their game on that. And once you've done that and you've modded games, very quickly you start looking for other avenues and other things to explore. And when we look at remote access Trojans, and more specifically from the NCA report, something called black shades, that can be used to view webcams, it can be used to take keystroke logs, all stuff that to a kid is quite attractive.
And of course, if you kind of go down the wrong path, it can all have pretty bad consequences as well.
Definitely, yeah.
Is it a lucrative thing, because these are highly technical skills to have?
I think it can be lucrative if it's done the right way. Now, what we find is that people are actually more interested in the kudos, in the one-upmanship, like Jake said, rather than the financial gain. It's actually very difficult to earn money on things like credit card fraud and on the lower level crime. Until you get yourself up to a really high technical ability, that's where you can really start earning some serious money. And that generally isn't your 15-year-old kids in a bedroom.
Where have you gone in terms of what you do now, Jake?
Yes, after I was arrested at the age of 18 for this stuff, which was 6 years ago now. And I do some legitimate security work now and consultation around that. I'm mostly focused on assisting the next generation of ethical hackers, good hackers, I suppose.
Yeah.
Opportunities.
So describe what a good hacker does.
Well, I guess it's all about motivations of what. I don't think breaking into a system or wanting to take it apart or wanting to understand how it works or what we define as hacking is necessarily a bad thing. It's what you do after that. And so there are systems out there in place now, such as bug bounties, which means companies will say, look, we recognize that there are hackers out there and we'll pay you if you hack us and tell us about
I've seen some of those. I mean, they can be really high. I think I saw one for $100,000.
$100,000. The other day, someone I know on Twitter was paid $17,500. Twitter have themselves paid out over $800,000 to freelance hackers that just literally, you make an account, you message them saying, look, I found a problem with your website, this is the problem, this is the damage it can cause, and they fix it and pay you. You also get the kudos. You might be put in a kind of leaderboard system where you get a high number of hacker points. You are this level of hacker, and once you reach a certain number of points, you become part of more private programs where you're on a trusted pool of hackers, and you may get to tinker with software and networks that aren't yet public.
Yeah, and I've got to say that really is a good illustration of where the industry's going. So when I was 15, 16, there was no term ethical hacker or penetration tester. It was purely hacker, criminal, that was it. So the fact that we're now seeing these programs and seeing job titles and proper training is definitely a good step forward, in my opinion.
Because I mean, obviously, companies, governments, anyone that has a computer system is very vulnerable to a bad attack. So if they can unleash the talents of young kids to actually help them, you can see why that's a good thing.
Well, there was an interesting case where a hacker was told by a judge that if he used his powers for good, he would have been a true asset to a company. And what we see now, so the penetration test that we carry out, we attack companies in the exact same way as a nefarious hacker would, whether that's exploiting the door entry system to walk through a front door, carrying out a remote attack against a website or a server, or trying to extract data, goods, services, etc. From that company. We do that in the exact same way, with the exact same tools, methodologies, equipment that a nefarious hacker would, except at the end of it, we provide a report, we don't run away with stuff. That's the real difference.
It's interesting to talk to you both. Jake, Mike, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.